Good afternoon. It is Friday, November 1st, 2024. The heart of the gospel is change. God wants to change us. He wants to change us from our old self-centered life into being more like Him. The Apostle Paul instructs the Ephesian church that there are things that they very much need to put aside in order to be more like God. In Ephesians chapter 4, verses 17 to 24, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation, second edition, it says, "With the Lord's authority I say this, live no longer as the Gentiles do, for they are hopelessly confused. Their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life God gives, because they've closed their minds and hardened their hearts against Him. They have no sense of shame. They live for lustful pleasure and eagerly practice every kind of impurity. But that isn't what you learned about Christ. Since you've heard about Jesus and have learned the truth that comes from Him, throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy." Paul warns the church, don't be like the Gentiles. Don't be living in a state of confusion like they are. We have permission to seek clarity about God's instructions and to seek understanding about how God would have us to live. He describes their way of life as being in darkness. And Jesus wants us to shine a light. In fact, describes us as a light shining on a hill. We don't want to be in darkness. He says they wander far from what God wants. They wander far from the life God wants. They have no direction, no sense of purpose. And he describes them as having closed their minds and hardened their hearts. Boy, that's a good description of some people. Closed-minded and hard-hearted. Can't listen, can't think, can't make any kind of change or have an opinion of their own. They're just closed-minded and hard-hearted. He describes them as having no sense of shame, only living for their own lustful pleasure. Ooh, how much our society's gotten away from the sense of shame, where we used to be ashamed for our bad actions, and anymore it seems like we celebrate them. That's a self-centered life. But he says we're different now that we've learned about Jesus. We're different since we've invited Christ in our hearts. And he encourages us to throw off the old life, throw off the old sinful nature, and instead let the Spirit renew our thoughts and attitudes. Every time in the New Testament where God mentions something we are not to do, He gives something that God intends to replace it. He wants us to throw off that old sinful nature, but have it replaced by the Spirit renewing our thoughts and attitudes. We are new creatures in a new life. And we get to enjoy that fresh newness that God brings. Tells us to put on our new nature. The old is corrupt and self-serving. The new is God-serving and pure. Our hope and prayer is that God can change our minds and our attitudes, that there's an openness to letting God make the changes in the way we think and the way we feel about the world. He changes our thoughts and our attitudes to make us more like Him. May you be open to God changing your life this week. God bless you.